Hello everyone and welcome to another video on Angular Shopping Cart UI. So in this video and the coming few videos from now, we would be trying to implement the login, register and authentication functionality, which would also involve routing. So this feature actually was really requested by some of my viewers, and I would like to give them a shout out because we would like to thank them. It is because of them that we are getting this particular feature requests and we are getting this particular video to go with. So Sravanti, Veera, Janet D'Souza, Rambir Singh, Unknown 05100. Now that's the name of the user, which is a very cool name. Another cool name, Maximus Prime, which reminds me of Optimus Prime. And there is Akshay Sudhakar, Anten, Henderson, Poker, Sai Krishna, Rajasekara. So these are the viewers who requested this feature and we are going to implement it. In order to get this login and registration implemented, we would like to cover a few supporting concepts. So let's see what we are going to cover in this particular series of videos that we have. Let me create a file here. So the core aim is to cover the login and registration functionality, and thereby we go for authentication as well. Login and register. In order to get that done, we would like to go for, first, routing has to be covered. So routing in Angular. And then of course the form handling. So form handling. And as far as form handling is concerned, I would go with the login form being a template driven form. And the register form being a model driven form, or you can also call it a reactive form. Apart from that, we would also like to go for guarding the routes. Now, once the login and register form are covered, we would also like to then actually go for the implementation of login and registration of a user with a token and all. So in that case, we would need a server, because the current server that we are having, that is the JSON server, it's actually very limited in the implementation. It would not basically provide us an authentication token. So we would like to get the server setup done, and I would be limiting the server setup to a very minimal server.js file, which I would be providing you later. And that would act as your Node.js server. I'm not actually going to focus on Node.js that much, because this is because this discussion we would like to limit it to Angular. But once the whole feature that we are trying to implement on Angular is done, we would then like to move on to the Node.js. So maybe that could be a separate video series, or maybe this video series extended to Node.js. I'm not pretty sure on what we are about to do, but server setup would be given by me. That is one single file, server.js, which you can run node server.js, and that will simply do the trick for you. So once the server setup is done, we would then like to implement the add to cart and add to wishlist functionality, which we have already implemented by getting the JSON server involved. We would like to get that to a specific user related add to cart and add to wishlist functionality. So user specific add to cart, add to wishlist. So these are the things that we would like to implement. And then there are a couple of smaller requests from some of other viewers. One of them is to get the remove from cart functionality, which is also very much requested by some of the viewers. So remove from cart functionality, and I'm pretty much interested in remove from cart because this would allow us to get an introduction to the output decorator. So we'll see, like the input decorator that we may have, there is an output decorator that we would use for remove from cart. And I would also like to fix the cart towards the side even if we scroll down. So basically make the position of the cart fixed. All right, so that's a small CSS thing, probably not related to Angular at all. So making the position of the cart fixed while scrolling down. I would also like to go for the view detail functionality, view product detail functionality. And in this functionality, it may act as a revision to whatever we have done. It would cover routing, component creation, service method interaction, dependency injection. There'll be almost all the things that we already covered previously would be covered in the view detail functionality as well. So these three features, they are smaller features, but they are very important, have been requested by some of my viewers, and we would go for these features as well. So this is what I'm thinking of implementing. However, we know that it could be so many other features that might be requested during the series of videos that we would move forward with now, because it will not be just one video. Maybe in today's video we might just go for routing in Angular, maybe later we might go for just one like login form, and then maybe just registration form, and so on and so forth. That is basically what we would like to get implemented. We would like to get an implementation of. So it might be possible that there might be more requests from other viewers, and I might also try to incorporate those requests. So let's see how it goes forward. And without further ado, let's get started. So in this video, we would like to start with routing in Angular. And this would be an introductory topic. We would like to go for an introduction to routing as well as an introduction to module creation in Angular. That is the combination in general, the way the programmers in Angular implement routing. So we basically would create a module. So by the way, this is an introduction. And we would like to create a module for routing. Now remember, Angular actually allows us to have an option of getting the module created automatically, but we might not go with that option. We would like to, and we would have if you recall, we have said no to routing while we started out our project. So we might want to go for creating a module on our own from the scratch. That would allow us to understand the ins and outs of a module in Angular as well. So we would like to create a module for routing. We'd like to create routes, and the routes that we are going to create are login, register, and shop. So shop is the current product listing page that we are going to go for. So login, register, shop. These are the routes that we are going to create, and let me just make some space so that we can just discuss routing in here. So after these routes are created, we would like to then go for creating a default route. Now remember, this default route, I want it to be redirected to the login route for now. All right, I would like to or maybe we can redirect it to the shop route. That'll be better. All right. And then we'd also like to create a wildcard route, or you may also call it a fallback route. In general terms, it is a 404 route. So basically, if nothing matches, a component of course would be there. So if nothing matches, you would fall back to a 404 component, and then you'd be given an option to go to the home page. So that is also what we are trying to go for. Login and register components would not be created at this point. We just like to have those dummy texts displayed, but we would like to just create these routes plus a default route and a 404 route and a component as well. Okay, so let's get started. Let me just open up our project. I'll also get the JSON server started for now. So one thing I would like to highlight over here, maybe once we are done with the whole thing, it might just be the products and the users resources and nothing else in these particular resources that we have for our server. Not necessarily JSON server, but for our actual server.js that we are creating. So just keep that in mind. And you can see that it is compiled. Let's just open this up in our browser. So we see here that we have a set of products and everything is actually working. The only thing is that there's only one route, or basically there's no route at all. There's only just one UI. So let's start by creating a routing module. Let me just open up our project. I'll close everything else down first. What I think by looking at the services folder is it would have been a good idea if I would have gone for specific folder for specific services, because we have those spec.ts files also to be accommodated. As of now, all my services are like, dangling in one single folder, which I don't actually like much. So I might want to go for a folder setup maybe later. As of now, we'll not do that. We'll just focus on the routes. As I mentioned earlier, we have an option to creating the routes automatically by selecting yes while we go for an Angular project creation, but we didn't do that, and that was for a reason. We wanted to know how a module can be created. So this is how it is. So I will create a new file. I would go for an app routing.module.ts file, and this particular module would have, basically in Angular everything is a class, so this module also would be a class. So class app routing module, and that's it. This would be exported, and this would be decorated by an ng module decorator. So I would import ng module from Angular core, and we would decorate this routing module like so. Now this ng module expects an object, of course. We would give it an object, and this object would be containing whatever we want to export, and at the same time whatever we want to import. So there'll be two things here: imports, which you might also have seen in the app module, and then there's one extra property which is called exports. Oops, like so. So let's see why this import and exports would be important in a while, but before that we would like to create the three routes that we want, that is login, register and shop, and we would like to export those routes. So let's see how that goes. For that, I would have to go for importing from Angular router. We would import routing or routes to start with, and also a router module. And first we would like to create the routes. So const routes, which is of the data type routes, and routes itself, it's an array. So if I just declare it as an array, you'll see that there will be no problems as such, because that is the data type itself. And inside the routes, we would define three paths. So one path would be /login. Oh, actually, we don't have to go for slash, so just login. And on login, I would like to go for the component. So let's just keep it as login component. We would like to create that though, and we would like to import it over here. Path register. Oh, we would have a register component implemented, and we would also like to have a path shop. Now, we do have a component which is shopping cart, and that is the one that we want to have as far as the shop route is concerned. So we would do that. So shopping cart. You can see that shopping cart component, I think if I hit enter, doesn't import it. So let me just import it manually. At times it imports, at times it doesn't. I don't know why. The shopping cart component from would go for components, shopping cart, shopping cart dot component. We don't have login and register, so let's create those components as well. Ng generate component, and what we want is the folder structure should be like this. Like component should have the feature component implemented as login and another feature component register. So ng-gc components, login, and that would actually create a login component for us. So our naming convention would still stay. Let's go for that. And ng-gc components register. All right, so we have a login and a register component. The names are the same that I have provided here. I mean, you can check those, but I know that for sure. So I would import login from components login dot component, and it is actually login component, and import register component from components slash register slash register component. So these are the three routes that we have, and we would start with these three, and then we would build on to showing more routes in here. So once that is done, we would like to now go for the router module, and this is how we register the routes. Router module dot for route. Now you can see that you can find two things here, for child and for route. Now there is a concept in Angular called lazy loading. We might want to go for that maybe later, but not this time, in which we would use this for child. So essentially what happens is, if you're registering routes for the main module, that is the app module that we have, we go for the route or for route method, while if you're registering routes for any child module, which is also possible in Angular, we can create child modules as well. In that case, we go for this for child method for registering the routes. As of now, we go for only this for route method, and we specify routes in here. And what we want to export is the entire router module. This export that we are doing would make sure that our routes that we have are also exported alongside the routing module that we are exporting. And that's what we would be importing inside our app.module.ts, and we would be registering the app routing module. So let's see how we do that. I'll go into the app.module.ts, and I would import the app routing module. From app routing.module, and inside the imports array, I just specify that right along this browser and HTTP client module, I'd also go with app routing module, and that's it. So now we are actually capable of going for routing altogether. However, this is still incomplete. Let me show you why. If I open my browser again, and let me also open up the console. Now in this case, you can see that right now you see the whole shopping cart component. Oh, we have a shopping okay, something displayed in the console. Let's get rid of that. That's always annoying. Product list component, and yeah, line number 35, this one, I'll just get rid of that. All right. Okay. Now you see here that as of now you see the whole shopping cart component displayed. So that is there. However, if I go for the three routes that we created, like login, you can see that it still gives you the component. If I go but it doesn't give you any error. Register, same thing would be there, and shop, it also you can see that I have misspelled my route, and once I misspelled the route, you get that error that the URL segment show was not matched, and that is where the whole implementation is still not complete. You can see that the routing is working. You can go to the login, register, and shop routes. So I can also go to the shop route. It will, however, show you just the same shopping cart component. It will not show you the login component or anything else. Here is what we'd be doing in order to show that output of that particular routing that we have. Now, first of all, we would like to definitely show only the shopping cart component while shop, and when the user goes to login, we'd like to show the login. When the user goes to register, we'd like to show the register. In that case, we would have to basically provide one more directive, which is called router outlet inside our app component. So you see here that rest of the whole thing would remain as it is, only this portion has to change. The shopping cart portion has to change. So in that case, I just specify router outlet / router outlet, and that's it. So this would just display the output that we want. So if I now go to my page, and if I do shop, I'll get shop. If I go for login, I would get the login component. You can see that login works. That's actually the login component that is coming in. We would like to definitely go for some form handling and all, and register will give you register works. Nothing else would work because there's no provision of having a randomized route checked, or 404 is something that we would like to do. Even the default route, let's say if I hit enter, you can see that this would stay in this particular state without any component display. So first, what I would like to do is get the second portion of our topics done, where we would like to create a default route, and we would like to go to the shop page by that default route that we create. So we would like to again go to the app routing module. We'd like to add one more path, and this time around nothing in it. So basically, if the user specifies nothing, you redirect to login. All right. And as soon as I do that, there'll be one warning that I will see inside the console. And you can also see that there's no output. So let's see the console. Inspect element. And in the console, you'd see that invalid configuration of route. Path this redirected to login. Please provide the path match. The default value of path match is prefix, but often the intent is to use full. Now, what this means is, first of all, if I just provide path match full, and this would work. So basically, I don't want to redirect to login, I want to redirect to shop, right? So basically, if I do not enter anything, by default it will be redirected to shop itself. So now if I close this down, and if I just hit enter, you'd see that I go to shop. I didn't specify any route, and by default redirected to shop. Now this path match full is actually really important in so many ways. By default, the prefix of the path is matched, and that is the default path matching mechanism for any JavaScript framework which implements routing. So there is a library called React Router when we go for React.js programming, and then there is this Angular router. So all of them, they have this prefix matching to be enabled by default, which means that the prefix would match, that is / would match, which would match with all the routes, and your Angular router would be actually confused to which route to go to. And at that point, we specify path match to full. Now that's quite a lot of detail, but I'm not going into that much detail in this particular thing. We'll just assume that okay, path match full has to be provided. This will just redirect you to login. But just be sure that the default matching mechanism for any routing expression is a prefix match. That is, in this case, / would match. Maybe in a product detail page, we might see some more of this path match thing, right? So you can see that now we have a default route set. We are already going to shop by default. And the next thing that we would like to do is to create a 404 route. And in that particular case, we would also like to create a 404 component. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so I would go for creating ng generate component inside components folder, shared. Shared is a good place to go for 404 because practically that is a component that is made for the whole application. So I prefer going for it inside the shared folder. So it will be page not found. Rather than going for a 404, like a number in a name, I'll go with page not found. Let's see. All right, so this is created. And we would like to import page not found from page not found component from components shared page not found / page not found dot component. And this is what I'll do. Path ***. Now this means match every route, suffix and prefix. Match everything and go to the component which is page not found. So in this case, what happens is that if, for example, nothing in these previous routes match, so if login, register or shop doesn't match, it would match this route and go to page not found. So you can see that it's not actually a way of creating a 404 route, but we are creating a general route that would match everything. And the way these routes would work is if one route matches, it will stop propagating forward. And that's how Angular deals with routing. So basically, if no routes match, it will go to the page not found and that will surely match. This time around, we'd not get any error on the console, but this time around, we'd get a page not found component displayed on the browser. Let's see how that works. So if I, for example, go to any random route, what I can expect is the page not found component. You can see that page not found works. However, I would like to make some changes to the UI of this particular component. And let me open up the page not found component. We'd like to go with a div with a class row and a div call md4 and offset md4. So basically I want this one to be centered, and a div with a class card and h3 maybe, calling it 404 page not found. Oh, this h3 has to be in a card header, so div card header, and this would go inside of it, and a div card body. Now these are all bootstrap classes, by the way. You don't have to get overwhelmed by this. I know for a fact that these are the classes because I have been working with bootstrap since quite long, and you would also get a hold of it if you practice more. So there's nothing as a, like, there's no biggie in this, in remembering these classes. All right, so oops, the page that you were looking for is not found. Anchor tag href, go back to home. Right, so basically as of now I'm using href, but I would like to change that as well. You can see that 404 page not found, the page that you are looking for not found, go back to home. Now if I go back to home, this would actually work. It'll take me to shop, but if you may notice, there is a redirect that is happening. So if I hit go back to home, see in the title bar it refreshes, right, which is not how a single page application would behave. And in order to get that behavior achieved, there is a directive that you would be using, which is called router link. The router link is equal to /. Now when I do this, you'd see that there will be no refreshes that will be done. So if I just enter some random thing and go to a page not found, and if I hit go back to home, notice that this browser would not refresh. You can see that this behaves now as a single page application. This is exactly how we want it to go for. So let's also implement these things in login and register. You can see that there are two directives that we have used. One is the router outlet inside the app component, that is our template, and one is the router link for the page not found. We would also like to link the login and register component together. So basically from login, one can go to the register and back to login. So I'll just go for small paragraph tags, anchor, instead of href, I go with router link. So by the way, router link, it's better implemented this way, right? So login, this is the route that we are going to, or this is already login, right? So we want to go for register, and from the register we would like to go back to login. So I'll just copy this. Now the router link, if we want to implement it as an array, we'll have to do property binding here, and this is the standard way of implementation of router link. Now if you don't do property binding, it's okay if you don't go for the array as well, and you can simply straight away go for /register. But this way of implementation of a route would, or a router link directive would help you in so many ways. So we would form a habit of going for this sort of an implementation of router link, and I would go into the register component as well. All right, and the router link would go back to login. And let's see, if we do not enter anything, we go to shop, login takes me to login, register would take me to, oh, I have a typo in here, so let me just go to the login component, register. What I also feel is I should make the navigation functional, right? We will do that. This login takes me to login, register, login, register, login, register. Yep, fine. And I'd also like to make the navigation work. So we already have a navigation component, I believe. So inside shared, yep, we do have a nav, and the nav has an outline primary, that is sign up, and I would like to have an outline secondary, that'll be login. And instead of href, of course it'll be router link, an array which would have the first element as register, login. Also, I would like to have one products page, or maybe we can call it shop page as well. That would be one of the routes, and rest would be just hashtags. So router link, so basically what should happen is I should be able to also navigate, should be able to go to the login, register, that's fine. Shop should take me to shop, that's also okay. I would like to make some changes here. I would like to have an m left to be 2, and I would like to follow this format where, you know, add to cart is not an outline and this one is an outline. So sign up would not be an outline, so it will not be, I'd get rid of this outline here, just to make, you know, just to be consistent with the styling. So if that is the case, I can also get rid of that margin left. I'll just get rid of that. So this would be actually consistent with the styling that we have. Yep. Sign up, login. So login would take me to login, sign up would take me to sign up, that is register, and shop would take me to shop. So this plus a 404 route that we have. And also we do have a default route that is taking us to shop already. So this is a very so this is an intro to routing that we wanted to have, and in the further sessions or in the further videos that we go for, we'd know more about routing itself. As of now, we saw that how to create a routing module, we created certain routes, we redirected the default route to shop route, and we also used two directives. One is router outlet and the other is router link. So this is where I would be ending this particular video, and in the next video we would like to implement the login form, and the implementation would be the one of a template driven form. So let's see how that works for us. Till then, bye bye.